Once again, welcome to Honoring Their Service, and that's what at New San Juan we'd like to do. We like to honor the service of all the veterans that live in and around the Black Hills. I'm Bob Riggio, and with me is one of those gentlemen that we're going to be talking about today. You were born and raised in the cornfields of Iowa. And you've got an ocean about as far to the east as possible in the Atlantic, and in the ocean as far to the west as possible in the Pacific. But you picked the Navy.
Yeah, I did.
Was there any reason why the Navy over the Army or the Air Force or the Marines?
Well, with the Navy, at least you had a place to sleep. And it wasn't a hole in the ground.
Good reasoning, good reasoning.
But I had a brother that was in, or a half brother that had been in the Navy, and that was during World War II, and he done his first tour, and then he re-enlisted, and during his first year after his re-enlistment, he came down with TB, and they put him in the hospital and took out one lung and one thing and another, and they finally let him out, and he ended up with a medical discharge from it, and he was gone and grown by the time I was, but I heard a lot of stories,
A lot of good things about the Navy you heard from your brothers. And so that's the reason. And back then, was the draft in effect, or?
Yeah, it was. I was only 17 years old when I went in, and I didn't need to register for the draft.
Because you were going to join?
Well, after I joined, they kind of took me out of the running as far as the draft goes. But by that following fall, a year after I'd went in, I was working on aircraft as a plane captain, checking everything over and making sure that everything was right for the pilots to take off and be safe with. By that following fall, I was on an aircraft carrier off the coast of China, because they thought that China was going to invade what at that time was Formosa. And we ended up spending, I think it was 32 days or 33 days on an old aircraft carrier. Came back from that, and they sent me down to San Diego to a squadron down there that sent photo aircraft out on every carrier that went out. They'd send 2 planes out and a skeleton crew to take care of them. They had me in a parachute loft down there, and I and another guy that had been to the parachute riggers school had got to be buddies, and so we were working together in the parachute loft.
Which is an extremely important position.
Yeah.
I mean, you're packing parachutes.
The pilots sure thought so.
Yeah.
But no, it was my own fault because I quit high school, and I knew that I couldn't go to school right away. But while I was working in the parachute loft, they split one of the other rates off and made a new rating that covered and took care of just the ejection seats and the liquid oxygen systems. Then when my time was up down there, I re-enlisted, and they sent me down to Tennessee. They sent me down there to go to school for 2 months. And then
the school to train you to maintain ejection seats.
Yeah.
Can you describe what's in an ejection seat?
Well, in the ones that we were working on when I first went in, the ejection was actually done by a cartridge that was about 8 inches long and about 3 inches around, and you had to have a certain amount of speed and altitude for the pilot to have time to get out of it. And by the time I got down 2 years and down in San Diego, working on parachutes and that kind of thing, and then they sent me down there to learn about the ejection seats and all. And they were rocket propelled, and they've got a rocket that's about 2.5 feet long, and
located right under their.
It's attached to the back of the seat.
Oh, it's attached. So they're not sitting on the rocket.
No.
Okay, so it's in the back of the seat.
Yeah. By that time, these planes that they had this rocket seat in it, and when they would go up, if they ejected, it had the capabilities to the point to where if the plane was stopped on landing strip or stopped on carrier, they could still get out of it. It would shoot them out far enough and to the side to where it would clear the pieces of the plane.
Because that too is important, because if you're ejected and the plane crashes, you certainly don't want the parachute to open up above the crash site and then land in the
You're right.
in the flames.
You don't. And that's what they had advanced to and within 2 years out there, you know, and that is so far behind what things are now that it's.
Well, let me ask you this: if I'm a pilot and I need to eject, what's the process?
Well, it used to be that they had a process where they had to go through and eject the canopy so that you didn't get cut up as you went through the canopy. And by the time I got to actually working on them, they had advanced them to the point to where when they would pull either the face curtain down over that was rolled up above their head, and they'd pull it down and eject it, or they could, or if they were, depending on what the plane was doing, if it was pulling G's and rolling or something like this, then their arms would be down, on the stick, and they could just drop it down to a T handle that was down between their legs, and pull that, and that would eject it.
So instead of ejecting the canopy and then firing off the ejection seat, it was just one motion, and the canopy goes and up they go.
One motion, canopy goes, the seat goes, and they're shot up. I don't remember what the distance was, but it was a considerable distance out away from the plane, in case it was on the ground and fire and what have you, you know.